So now we move to China. Unfortunately, we don't have Wi-Fi in this room, but we still have the telephone, fortunately, as the best mobile situation. So I will call Professor Tang for his presentation. 喂，你好。
现在可以了吗？
现在可以了。OK。
那我们现在开始吧。
可以开始。
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
It seems to me we are talking with people in very remote areas, but even in China, we can have internet meeting with very remote areas. Anyway, so I would like to use about 10 minutes to share with some of my observations about climate change mitigation in China, specifically in Chengdu. As climate change is being preserved in many countries, we also try to understand whether or how this is preserved in China. So we did a research, and very interestingly, about 100% of people really perceive the idea of climate change, but not possibly not 100% by climate change per se, but also probably by weather, especially like air pollution. But this really is something surprised us, and also many people understand there's a very big change in this, and China is the biggest greenhouse emitters. So in this case, every people, from government, and many people realize we need to do something to reduce greenhouse gases issue. To reduce emission in China, many of you may have known that a lot of policies have been set in China, and to do that, after good policy, implementation is crucial. To make sure this is really good implemented, the central government has established an institution we call coordination agency in China, but this not only from the central government and also it is also set at province and prefecture or city, and also up to county level. For example, this is how we say from central government to county level. We have all these institutions to coordinate how emission can be reduced. And we know government of China has set up the goals how this can be reduced. By 2030, carbon dioxide should be reduced. We call this carbon dioxide density by 60 to 65% from 2005 level. And for the last few years, we do say there is some good achievements have been done, and some is really have taken very well in many parts of China. And for that, also we know this fossil energy consumption is the most important source of carbon dioxide. So very important is we need to reduce the primary consumption for fossil energy. So we need to increase non-fossil, we call new renewable energy, up to 20%. And as many of you may know, there has been very great increase in wind and solar energy in China. And we need also for sequestration carbon from the atmosphere. So reforestation has been one very important action in China. And we have a lot of research programs, some of you know of this. And not only this type of goals, but also very importantly, we need to have some measures. For example, we need to, in different areas, especially in regions, we need to have this carbon trading networks, because without this, sometimes may be difficult to realize the goals. So by making such networks operate this year or some already from last year. And also very importantly, many of you know, we have so-called 5-year plan, and this is very important for development in China. So it is required all this carbon dioxide reduction must be incorporated in the 15th five-year plan. So it's already not only from the central government, national plan, but also up to county level. It should be all there. And to illustrate how this is being done, for example, Chengdu. Chengdu is the capital of Sichuan province in southwest part of China. From the presentation map, you see this is southwest China. It is one of the biggest cities in China. It's about 12,000 square kilometers in the area, and we have about 12 million people, about 7 million is urban. This is we call as people registered in Chengdu. If we include all the migrant people, I think we have about 14 to 15 million people. There's a lot of people here. And you also see in terms of GDP, the one good city in China, and also a lot of universities and students. This is very important and for development. And Chengdu, basically, we call it the hub for the Tibet autonomous region. So it's very close to the Tibetan plateau. Actually, in terms of this, it's about 1 hour from Chengdu. We can up to the Tibetan plateau because it's on the river. And in terms of climate change mitigation, Chengdu City, they do not specifically have targets or policies or measures for climate change, but more often they try to promote we call low carbon cities, because we everybody understand this includes more comprehensive activities, even also the policy activities. So this is the target set by Chengdu City. This 2020, the carbon dioxide reduction must be at the level of the provincial requirement. We cannot beyond that. Must be better than the provincial government requirement. Like renewable energy, we must be up to 30%. If you remember, this 20% by 2030 for national level, and we must increase forest cover by 40%. And this is really not an easy job. And apart from forest in the areas and forest area, most importantly, we must increase urban forests. And this is not only for this, but also for air pollution control. And importantly, and because buildings have been one of the most largest sector for greenhouses emission, so it is required that green building must be the target for this. So by 2020, 60% of should be we call new buildings. And the public transportation is, transport is an important sector as well. So the target is by 2020, 60% of movement in the city should be by public transport. And crop residues should be recycled almost 98% of this. So this is type of target set. And we also have a lot of other targets, as you may see this. So there's a lot of this has been done. And to do this, there are some type of platforms which we understand, like we have this carbon trade center. This has been started already from last year. This, and also we needed to build capacity for institutions to this. So this also national build capacity building also be like this. And to help this university house have very good lot of programs for this education and research for urban technology and urban carbon dioxide reduction of this. For example, this carbon trade environment institution, this is approved by the central government. 2011 already operate. But from last year, it's specifically focused on carbon trade. And if we say what type of categories can be traded in this, it is something like all types of sectors related to carbon dioxide emission And energy, all this can be treated. This is the English, Chinese version cannot translate, but this is different categories can be treated on this platform. And this is how it is treated on land platforms, how this is going in this institute. To promote or to encourage institutions to do this, and some, like this is CDM project a few years ago, started, but from a few days ago it started operating. We can say that it can produce a lot of electricity and also can really reduce the carbon dioxide emission. A lot of things can be done like this. And policy is important, but action and activity is more important. So in Chengdu, coal will be replaced by natural gas, and hydro electricity will mostly be used. And also the natural gas private vehicles can be mostly promoted. And many of you may not know, all the buses, taxis is almost all powered by natural gases in Chengdu. And for transport, especially the public transport, a lot of effort has been made to encourage people to use this. And so like we have this free community buses, and also recently we have this shared bicycles. This really help people. We call the final 1 kilometer. Before that, people, when they use metro, they cannot do this. But now with this, many people use metro, so they really help a lot. And there are a lot of measures have been taken in green buildings, but one very important thing is our windows. Windows previously used common glasses, which is really not energy saving. But from 2006, and especially recently, all the windows must be used this hollow glasses because this is really energy saving, can save a lot of energy. And apparently we saw that like agricultural forest has took a lot of things to increase carbon sequestration and also to reduce carbon emission. Like for example, from annual cropping to perennial cropping is also one way to reduce carbon dioxide emission. And we also know we did learn from many other institutions and countries. So we have a lot of international collaboration prior to the development of carbon city. So that, for example, we have collaborating with Switzerland, with Germany, from France. So many others. And so all this really help to help people to do this. And with all these efforts, we really do see some very good development. For example, by last year, up to 2015, we really have this, reduction of energy consumption quite good, and our carbon dioxide reduction also is quite good. And it is higher than national average. So Chengdu is really doing something good. And in case of this, the government of Chengdu has tried to set new goals. So compare with 2030, so we have about 5 years earlier than the national goal. So this is something that's a big challenge for Chengdu. And apart from the government, public activities and personal behaviors, and some enterprises, social, and how very much involved in this. For example, I just gave an example. There's one company. They are trying to use an internet-based life cycle to try to encourage people to reduce use of energy, try to reduce the carbon dioxide emission. But this way, they also try to reward. If we do something good, and if you can really get the certificate, then you can get type of credits. And use this type of credits, you can use this as the cash, use in different type of area you can use. For example, you can buy energy production products. You can also try to use your public consumption for example, in public transportation, or even you can use some public facilities. So people are really encouraged to try to use this as well. And there is already a type of platform, how much you have done, then some type of systems to calculate how much you used energy, how much carbon dioxide reduction is being done, like this is a system how it's doing. And recently, this company is being collaborating or cooperated with two very important common bicycle sharing in China. One is the mobile one or FO. So any people use this, they also get credit. Before, like we are using it, we do not get that. But you get carbon reduction credit. This credit can also aid to your own credit. But problem with this actually important is how we estimate how much carbon dioxide is reduced. So government of China has released quite detailed guides for calculation of this for different power plants, grids, quite a long list of this. This is some important one I listed here. But again, because this is really not an easy job, and many of you know. So the big challenge is there. For example, recently, this is the World Resource Institute. They have done some research in Chengdu. They found some are overestimated of carbon dioxide emission, and some are underestimated. So there is a big challenge how we develop a reliable methodology to estimate carbon dioxide emissions. So this is really big emission challenge for us, and we are also working on this, and some of the institutes also working on this. So with these few minutes, I think many of you understand China, and this is the system in China. Once something is set by central government, all the efforts really can be made to achieve such targets. This has been approved by many institutions of development. And importantly, I think this carbon dioxide reduction, or we call greenhouse gases reduction, is very much related to the evaluation of government official performance. So there is a study by our colleagues from the United States. Also, we found promotion of government officials. It's also related whether during your term that carbon dioxide reduction is relied or not. So it's good of this. And very importantly, I think there's a very big or very good public awareness about climate change, because many people feel this extreme climate events or the weather events, we really understand this. Also, because of increased air pollution, people really think of this is something really need to work on this. And there are a lot of new institutions or enterprises that have been interested in how to reduce carbon reduction. And I know some of them try to increase for forest and different technologies. The government also encourages this to have some type of mechanism to encourage, and so there's various different sectors as well. And with very quick development of what we call internet-based economy in China, it seems low carbon reduction can become substantial with all the development, especially with change of public lifestyle behaviors is really something we really can do. So because of time, I just like to share with you some of this from Chengdu. And thank you very much for your attention, and I will be very happy to answer if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. So, any questions from the audience?
Well, perhaps a question on the buildings and the green buildings. The 60% target, is that only for the new buildings, or is there a target also for refurbishment of existing old buildings?
As far as I know, most of it now, because easy for government to do stuff new buildings. For existing buildings, there's new will come to improve all this, like for example, the windows. But the first one is for new buildings. The existing buildings, maybe there is, I'm not very sure.
Mr. Franken.
There was a reference on a slide about green credit cards. How does that work in Chengdu?
Credit card it has been in some areas quite well, but still not very well widely known. So only some sectors know about this. Collaboration with institute from Europe, they know this, they can apply for that. But some, especially those from traditional sectors, they are still not very well aware about that. So this is the area we need to promote.
So there are a lot of potentials in this area, maybe also in cooperation
Yes.
and in exchange with EU and member states and cities and regions.
Yeah, this is true for sure. It's because we know, and my personal recommendation to government is we need the mode of development of Europe, not other areas, based on consumption of large quantities. So we say like transportation, energy, all this, we need to learn from Europe. So there's big area potential to learn from Europe.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions?
You mentioned that there was a survey, web-based one, about Chinese people's perceptions on climate change, and that 98% of people had been recognizing it as a threat. I wonder if it is varying a lot between different parts of China. Has there been any studies in that matter? And if so, how is Chengdu generally regarding the environmental awareness according to your understanding?
Climate change is not very well perceived in Chengdu. So this is why we have carried out that type of survey. As far as our study has shown, it's quite well widely perceived. And but as I said, maybe not 100% by climate change per se, but importantly by this extreme weather events, or also recently by air pollution, because every people may not, for public, it may not easy for them to distinguish these two, but it's really, really people saying this climate change, and especially in some areas, farmers, they also told us they have to use some type of adaptation, for example, cropping or type of this, because there's big change in climate. So there is a very quite well perception about the climate change as far as our study has shown.
So, Professor, thank you, and I will brief you later.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye.